So gentlemen, welcome to 10X Mastermind. This is going to be a very scary day. It's like signing up for military boot camp. Who's ready? I know it's going to be fun, but it's an important day. And the reason I asked you all to be here is because I believe that we're living in maybe the scariest and most exciting time in history at the same time. In the next 24 months, most of the jobs that we know today won't exist. Think about in the next 24 months what life is going to be like when you have Tesla robots running around doing all the manual labor, when you've got AI replacing, most jobs that people sitting in front of a desk. I mean, this is happening. I don't know how many of you saw the Google update yesterday, but they've got a chat. They've got an AI agent now that you just literally say, okay, book my flight, do this, and just does it for you. Better than your assistant. This stuff is real. All the stuff we've been dreaming about, that's happening now at quantum speeds. For those of you that didn't think this whole digital currency was happening, if anyone's paying attention to what's happening with Bitcoin today, it's unreal what's happening. The world is changing. So never in history has it been more important for men like us to get in the best shape of our lives, mentally and physically. And Dr. Fung is going to talk about some cognitive things we can do. Nikki's going to talk about some physical things we can do. But if we are not in the best physical, mental shape of our lives today, we're in deep trouble. I mean, again, the opportunities are endless for us, but many industries and many jobs, many people that we know are going to get wiped out. That's the reality of what's happening. Okay. We've got men represented here from 3D printing. This is the future of housing. We're going to hear some very interesting things. But today is really important because the world as we knew it is changed. And it's going to change like we can't even imagine. So that's why we're here. But he can just tell you kind of what happens when you take a Canadian entrepreneur and you put him with some insanely successful Americans that like your idea. Like we took his business plan and he's up like year 5 now. So that's what can happen. I believe that we're all one meeting away. We're just one meeting away from like 10Xing our business. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to most of you. Just one meeting, one relationship away. So I think a lot of times we're so close to our success, but we don't continue. We don't follow through. But coming from the US, I can tell you the level of optimism is off the charts. Like they've never recorded this level of optimism. Even like when John F. Kennedy was elected, they said they've never seen the optimism in America. I mean, this is wild. So despite the negative toilet that we live in here in Canada, I think we need to think about where's the opportunity and not think about like, a lot of people say, we can fix Canada. That's like fixing Cuba. Like I don't think that's our best use of time. So I think, myself, like all the money I've made in my life was in the United States. Like I live here, my family's here, but all my money's been made in the States. So I think all of us as entrepreneurs need to think different. And I'm glad that we have our one US representative here. But there's an incredible opportunity. So in terms of opportunities, I just want to talk about the opportunities. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges. The opportunity is this AI thing is insane. Literally, you've got 50 employees right now. Imagine having 50 agents that work 24/7, 7 days a week, never complain, and work 10 times better. Like that's the opportunity you have in front of you right now. Same with you. Like think about the opportunities we have. Robots. This stuff is real. Like this is the crazy part. Does anyone watch the Elon Musk thing when he brought the 60 robots out and they start talking to people and making drinks for them? Like if anyone been to the Sphere in Vegas, like you walk in and it's like, hi, you with the red jacket. It was me. So the robots are talking to me. I'm like, holy like we're in this age today. And for any of us that are still thinking old, like it's a different world. So the opportunities we have are endless. The challenge we all have is we live in an age of complacency. I call it the complacency virus. And, a lot of us joke about the millennials and stuff. Let me tell you, I've spent the last 90 days being with 100 of the most successful people that I know in North America, and they got it too. We've got from billionaire all the way down. A lot of people just got lazy. And I don't know if it's COVID, what happened, but we got a lot of lazy people. So the good news on that is you have no competition because it's not just the millennials that are lazy. Okay. We're talking like guys up to whatever age are just lazy. So we live in a time where you can dominate like you've never dominated. And the opportunities, look at Elon Musk. The guy's worth $400 billion now. Like these are numbers. If you take a look from a great wealth perspective, that's like Andrew Carnegie, JP Morgan, Rocket, like all these guys combined. We can't even comprehend this. This will guy be worth $1 trillion in 2 years. Okay. The opportunities are endless, but he's thinking a little bit differently, right? First principles thinking. So the challenge we have is, and what I learned is most of my friends, and I've got some very successful, some of you guys have been to my house, my parties, I've got some very successful friends. The problem is we as men, we tend to peak around age 15 and we have the same stupid ideas from age 15. And the problem with that is when I'm hanging out with my friends, I can finish their sentences, they can finish my sentences because we basically peaked at age 15, the same stupid ideas. The only way we're going to break through and get some new ideas is hang out with new people. Like there's no other way to do this. And the only advantage we have right now in AI is networking with the last few remaining smart humans. Because believe me, there's not that many of us. There's not that many of us that are going to get up early December 13th. I know everyone's got meetings, but you guys are here. This is called the winner circle. Okay? There's very few of us out there. Okay? There's very few of us here. Everyone's making excuses and they're not making money, right? Because we all have a choice every day. Make excuses or make money. And 99% of people choose to make excuses and blame the government, blame all this other bullshit. Okay? All of our competition is in the mirror. That's all we have to deal with today. Okay? It's just us. It's us against us. This is a one-player game. Okay? Who agrees with that? Okay? So I'm really grateful that we've got the right guys here today. The reason I created 10X Mastermind is I had a lot of success early in my life. At 14, so you understand the background where I'm coming from. I had really severe asthma. I was in the hospital constantly, like I think 50 times one year in emergency. And all my friends and Dan knows some of my older friends, they were athletic, like the Barahowskis, these guys and Shanahan, these were like really, athletic guys. And I had bad asthma, so I wasn't with those guys. So the only thing I could figure out is how to make money. And I was reading a newspaper. I still like reading newspapers, one of those few guys, newspapers, but this guy named Raymond Aaron, one of your good friends and my mentor, he ran a full page ad in the Toronto Star and it said, hey, if you come to my 2-day seminar at York University, you're going to learn how to make money in residential real estate. I'm like, right. So I tell my parents, age 14, I'm signing for this. And my parents are like, I don't think it's designed for 14-year-olds. I'm like, I'm going. So I signed for this thing. I think it was like $199, right? The best money I ever spent. So age 14, I'm learning it 2 days. And I didn't really know what I was talking about, but it wasn't that hard. But I learned one formula, which I still use today. And it took me 90 days to find a property, 191 a net, which actually looks the same. If you drive by, it's a net in Hyde Park. If you drive by today, it looks exactly the same way. And we bought it for about $82,000. And when I say I learned the banks don't give you a mortgage when you're 14. But I had 10% of the money saved. And then I had to become a salesperson. And I convinced my aunt and uncle. My parents immediately say no, but they say no to everything. So that was no. But I went to my aunt and uncle. And luckily for them, they never had kids. And I guess they looked at me as like, oh, that's like the kid we never had. They're like, okay, we'll do it with you. And out of guilt, I went to my mom because that was her brother. And I'm like, Mom, your brother's supporting me here. So anyways, that's how I got the mortgage done. And then we took the 2 apartment. I grew up in a family. My dad was a general contractor, so I knew how to fix things up. So we fixed up the 2 apartments. And then we took the basement apartment and I did this project myself with the help of my dad, but we converted a third unit. And what was really cool about it, what I didn't realize is once you rent those first 2 for higher rents and then you create a third income, then you go to the bank. This all happened in 90 days. They're like, wow, we're going to refinance that. They give me 50 grand. So I'm like, got 50 grand. So I bought 193 a net. So I've done this over 100 times in Canada, in the US and Mexico and Costa Rica. And it wasn't a hard game until COVID happened. And then COVID happened and I'm like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. They're printing money like crazy. Like this money's not going to be worth anything. So all of a sudden, and I had way too much time because nobody wanted to meet with me. And I run a co-living business, which basically the government shut down for us. And I had too much time. So I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I couldn't figure out the rationale behind this. And a lot of this is because of your posts, because Andrew's a really, really smart guy. And Mark Organ, the guy that I do my podcast with. And I'm reading their posts going, this doesn't make any fucking sense. My whole model of 40 years of real estate, something's not right here. So I start selling. I had a lot of real estate at the time, started selling at the peak, which I'm very grateful for. And all my friends were like, what are you doing, Roman? Like, you're selling, like, this is ridiculous. That's stupid. You own real estate forever. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But then I had all this capital. I'm like, what the do I do with it? Because I wasn't going to go in real estate because I knew this was not going to end well. And then I did take the 1,000 hours of research on Bitcoin. And again, everyone to this day, they still think I'm nuts. But it's been 4x for me. It's been the best investment. And I actually think like this year, it'll go another 2x. Like this is just the beginning. Like just to give you an idea, Bloomberg terminals, which every trader in the world has to use, they now, when they price Bitcoin, it's at 0.10, which means they know that there's going to be a 1 in front of the point. Like that's going to happen in the next couple of years. So sometimes you have to think differently, is my point. Okay. Because even though I'd been very successful 40 years in real estate, and I had an agency that was successful, top 13th fastest growing company in the country, 11th fastest growing company in the country, VC funded, paid all the VCs back. All my investors are still my good friends because they all made money. Helped 5 startups go from $0 to $1 billion in either in revenue or in valuation. So had some success. But then all of a sudden, age 45, and now I'm traveling 200 days a year. I'm running an active business in 15 countries and 5 continents. So I'm winning. Like I got all the houses and all that shit you're supposed to have. And then I come home and find out my wife has clearly had other plans. And then she leaves. So I got 2 kids with diapers still on and a young daughter. And she just moves out. I'm like, oh, this is not good. I can't be traveling 200 days a year. So I'm like saying goodbye to all my clients around the world that were paying me 7-8 figures, 8 billionaire clients. Donald Trump was my biggest client for 5 years. So very grateful he's back in office. So life changed for me. And all of a sudden I've been like stay-at-home dad. And I'm like, we met together, Dan, we were writing our goals together. And it's like, well, how do I do this? And I got to take the kids to school in the morning and like pick them up after. My life had changed. So I call that the lost decade. And I wanted to watch them grow up. I wanted to do that. But now I've got my daughter is 19, turning 20. She's in Connecticut. She's doing amazing. And my 2 boys are coming to the end of high school. They're not even showing up for class half the time. And I honestly, I think sometimes I get upset about that. But then part of me goes, well, what the are they learning there anyway? But anyway, so I'm hanging out in Toronto for a little bit longer. And then I want to be back in the States where I lived. So I decided about a year ago, I got to reinvent myself. Like this is like Roman 3.0. I don't want to talk about my best hits anymore. I don't want to be Billy Joel going around the world and going, oh, I did this, like that. Like I want my best hits ahead of me. So I started a podcast. I called my friend Mark Organ, which is a friend of Nikki's and ours, and we started together. So he did the software side of our business, and I was the services side. And for years and years, I'd make fun of him because I'm making money right away, and he's losing money. He's like raising money. I'm like, Mark, you're always losing money. He's like raising more investors. I'm like, Mark, I already paid all my investors back. What the are you doing? And then one month he's like, yeah, we're so broke. All the employees, we told them we couldn't pay them. So they're all sleeping at the office. I'm like, that's up. Anyway, our companies were very close. Some of our employees actually got married and have families together. Like we were very intimate, our relationship, our companies. But 10 years later, his company gets sold to Oracle for just under $1 billion. I think 900 and something million plus stuff. So he did a good thing with a software model. And that's a lot of us. Sometimes we work really hard and we think we're doing the right business model, but sometimes we're not. We have to rethink the business model. Like you're in the right model, being the software business. So I called Mark. I said, Mark, I'm in the second half of my life. The divorce was horrendous. The first year I just cried and I was really depressed. It was really horrific because for me, it was the greatest sign of failure. That's how I felt as a man. Like I really f***ed this up. Like it was the worst thing for me. And I said, Mark, but what I've learned over the last couple of years, and I did a lot of personal development. Like I'd never been in a men's program, like never. And I met some guys that are like, oh, Roman, you got to go to this Sterling men's weekend. I'm like, oh, this sounds horrific. And it wasn't fun. Just to be clear, it was awful. But I learned some things. And one of the things I learned is men, if you take the DNA of any of us, right? And you take the DNA of a caveman, which they still dig these guys, they find these guys, our DNA is 99% the same. Like we think we've evolved, we're cavemen, okay? And what do cavemen know how to do? They know how to go out in a pack of men and they go hunt and kill shit, okay? And sometimes they don't eat for days, okay? Like we've learned now humans can go 30 days and not eat. When they find these miners don't eat for a month, they're fine. We've been conditioned to go, 3 meals a day and like this is a complete bullshit. But also with cave women, right? When they dig up a cave woman and they take, the DNA of our partner, our female partner, it's pretty much the same. So a lot of these things are just evolutionary, but our society's tried to feminize us and tried to brainwash us that we're something that we're not. But we are no different. Like especially this group, this is alpha male. Okay, we're hunters and killers. You can take any of us anywhere on the planet, and we will succeed. Do you guys agree with that? Okay, we are not feminine. We're not feminine men. Now, what they've tried to do to us is by putting weird shit in our water and not removing estrogen from our water. They've tried to feminize men. That's why men can't have kids anymore. Like they've sterilized us. If anyone have any kids or maybe some kids on SSRIs, like just pretty much every kid I know is on SSRIs. Well, when you give kids SSRIs, those girls, they are no longer attracted to men with testosterone or like type A men. They want feminine men. Like all of this shit was like done on purpose. So there's very few alpha men out there anymore. It's very scary. But this is what's been against us. The good news is Elon buys Twitter, buys X. There is the only free choice of it. Like, we actually have free information, because our podcast, by the way, it's gotten banned. I can't even tell you how many times. Like, the first episode, all we just talked about was like, hey, a little bit about COVID. Boom, YouTube takes us down. We'd build like 10,000 followers on Instagram. And then we'd say like something like, oh, the word vaccine. Boom, they just take us out. There's no warning. There's no like, hey, you can't do that. Just no reason. So I can tell you firsthand, we're completely censored here. Even like innocent stuff that I'll send people, boom, like it just gets taken down. Like, we live in an age of censorship. Does anyone experience this? Like this? A lot of my podcasts. Yeah, like this shit is real. Okay. Now, thankfully, Zuckerberg gave Trump $1 million for his inauguration thing the other day. I'm like, thank God, maybe he'll get back on side. But they were completely run by, CIA, FBI. Like, it was really. And does anyone watch the media clips? How all media say the same thing?
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Every time. It's crazy. Like, literally, I don't care if you're watching in Naples, Florida, you're watching in Miami, but literally all media is saying the same thing. Like, we've been completely designed to think differently. So people are starting to wake up. So thankfully, Trump, I think, is going to make a big difference. And then all these Democrats they recruited. Think about Elon was a Democrat, and Gabby. Think about his whole dream team. They're all Democrats. All Democrats. And they're like, hey, we want the truth. And I love Elon volunteered to audit Canada for us. I love that, right? That's beautiful. Like, talk about who needs an audit. And I love how he's auditing the IRS. Holy I went through 5 years and $1 million IRS audit. That was painful. I love that they're being audited. Like, this is exciting opportunities for us. Okay. So to complete my story is we did a podcast called The Best Half Show. And The Best Half Show is basically the premise is, I honestly believe the second half of your life should be 10 times better than your first half. Your first half, you should up, make all the mistakes, do all the stupid shit that we do. But you should have learned, hopefully you should have learned at that point, and the second half should be way better. I can tell you from my experience, it's been really good. Now, I've also pushed myself to do some crazy shit. Like, I've tried every crazy thing that you've heard, because you don't know what works. You try this, you try this, you try this, and then you figure it out. But the second half, I can tell you for sure, I can tell you honestly, like, I'm more content, more happy, have the best relationships I've ever had. Like, it's been like really, really good. It's been very painful for 10 years, but I figured this out. So I believe the second half of your life could be 10 times better. In doing this, and Mark and I, we're great partners because we disagree about pretty much everything. Became a vegetarian 30 years ago. So if you want to live a very long time, and I start researching and I'm like, hey, like 6 of the top 10 guys in the world, they're all vegetarian.
I think animal protein, animal fat is important. I think it's crazy. There's no way to me that especially veganism is going to be the answer. Vegetarianism, at least you have some animal protein.
And I was investing in Bitcoin, and you were like, Roman, don't do that. And you're putting this thing as crazy Bitcoin. I mean, now it turns out to be right. But at the time, it was insane.
I'm a fan of gold. I think gold is cheap. I think it's undervalued.
But I learned that two men can actually be right and have two different answers. So for example, I'm like pro Bitcoin. He loves gold. Like, we're both right on this. Mine happens to be 10x better this year than his. Actually, last 4 years. But it's just, two men can be right? And have different answers. And that sometimes we don't accept that. So I do believe that we need to challenge ourselves, not just hang around with guys that agree with us. So I like doing my show with Mark because we disagree about most things, but we learned some good things. In the process, in the summer, I said, Mark, if we're going to talk about 10xing your life, you got to get in the best health of your life. Like, we have to do this shit. We can't just talk about it. It's like, yes. So Mark was a little bit fat. I was a little bit fat. And Mark took it very seriously, and he lost about 50 pounds. He has abs now. Like just for those of you that don't know, like, I've never had abs before, but it's 8 times harder to get abs, 8 times harder than become a millionaire. It means it's 8 times easier to become a millionaire than get abs, right? Like, maybe Nicky will take off his shirt today. He's got abs. Like, it's incredible. Like, it's super hard. And then as you get older, it's way harder. So, But the only way I knew I was going to get into my high school weight, which was 185 pounds, like probably when I met Dan, the only way I was going to do that was I had to recruit my friends around me, because it's all about influence. It's like you become your 5 people you hang out with. Like there's no way around this, guys. There's no way around it. So I was in Mexico, I was there for a week, and I recorded a bunch of videos. I did one a day for 75 days, created like an online thing. And it's basically really basic stuff, guys. It's based on 75 Hard. Has anyone heard of 75 Hard? Yeah, like if you do it, that will change your life for sure. Okay. Mine was a modified version of 75 Hard with a little bit more about work, how to like make money. So basically I created these videos and I called 15 of my friends. I said, you got to do this with me. It's free. It's 75 days. And out of these 15 guys, 5 of them went through the motions. They lost some weight. They got a bit more sleep. Like they did a little bit, so they got a little bit of results, but they just weren't really serious about it. They're just doing it. The other 10 took it seriously, and we got some insane results. And I'm not talking just about health and fitness, which is what this was about, but like relationship stuff. My other friend, very successful, took a company public, but developed some habits along the way, like marijuana every day for 30 years. Okay. Bit of an addiction. Prescription sleeping pills. They said he couldn't sleep. So then I'm out. He has a beautiful house in Turkey overlooking like Greece. Like it doesn't get any nicer than where his place is. But I'm with him. He's doing like a bottle of wine every night. Andy, you'd like him, right? You'd like the wine. So, but I'm like, this can't be good for you. Like this weed every day, the prescription sleeping pills, like this can't end well for you, Edward. Like, so we have these talks. Anyways, he does a challenge, and fast forward, no alcohol, right? This is since April, no weed, no prescription pills, met the most unbelievable woman, so out of his league, I can't describe to you. She's gorgeous, younger, owns the 3 most successful private schools in the city, takes them on trips around the world. I'm like, holy like, so what happened to me was like, I saw the results of the daily discipline. Because when you do the hard shit every day, your life changes. Not just health and fitness. That's just part of it. But when you get to that mindset of, I'm going to bed earlier, I'm going to cut out alcohol, I'm going to get up an hour earlier, I'm going to go do the hard thing first, I'm going to go work out, I do my hardest business thing every day. Like when you start changing the discipline, your whole life changes. So we're here, and this is called our comfort zone. Okay. We're all in it. You've got your comfort zone. And until you get out of your comfort zone, we don't achieve any of these things. So what he taught me was the moment you break some of these things. So for example, for me, it was like going to bed early. That's how many of you have a hard time going to bed early? Is this just, yeah, it's a big issue. So the sleep is a big issue. So what happens, for example, is like once we conquer the sleep one, which is for most of us, it's a really big issue. You're never going to get through this area. Okay. So another one could be, okay, so now I've got the sleep, but now I'm not waking up, not working out in the morning. So let's say it's like a morning, let's say it's a workout, for example. So until you start adding this to your daily routine, it's all about daily habits. So all of these different disciplines get you closer and closer to your goal. But it's all about getting out of your comfort zone. The challenge is we've been programmed. This has been programming intentionally to make us stupid and lazy. And stupid and lazy is about, oh, let's adjust the temperature, right? And everything we've seen in our culture is about comfort. That is like the death of achievement. Okay. When Elon talked about sleeping on his factory floors for years, like that's painful shit. That's why he's worth $400 billion, right? It's different, right? So it's getting out of your comfort zone. Nikki has the craziest diet you've ever seen, measures his food, brings his food with us to restaurants, right? Like the discomfort he goes through every day is why he can take off his shirt at, how old are you now, Nikki? 57. It's ripped. Okay. He's going to win bodybuilding competitions this year. Okay. Because he gets himself out of the comfort zone. Okay. So all of this is just getting out of your comfort zone. But once you do it, then you get like this goal, then you get this, and it gets better and better, but it's just getting out of your comfort zone. But the problem is we've been programmed all about comfort. Everyone's into comfort and self-care and all these bullshit things that we've seen. It's all about getting uncomfortable, but it's about the hard shit every day, first thing in the morning. Now, if you're drinking, you tempted me, bought some fancy wine and like, hey, I could have said yes last night, but I'd feel like shit today, right?
You're just not training.
So the challenge is getting out of our comfort zone. And if we want 2025 to be really, really good, we're going to have to give up some stuff. So here's the good news about what I've learned about 10X. In the 5 startups that I've helped to go from 0 to $1 billion, either in revenue, and we're talking like in 1 year. Like one example, we went from startup with like no employees, guys working out of a Starbucks, no one had an assistant, to $1 billion in earned revenue in 12 months. That's faster than OpenAI, to put this in perspective, which is claimed to be the fastest growing company in history. It was by daily habits. So I'll give you an example. We had a morning meeting every day at 8:30. Every day. Physical meeting, like in a room like this, okay? And everyone had to go to the meeting. You couldn't be late. There's no excuses unless like you know, somebody died. You couldn't miss the meeting. And you just had to say, what's the one thing you did yesterday to help the company achieve its goal? So our goal was to sell 5,000 condos that year. So every morning, like you're rushing to the meeting and you had to go, what the did I do yesterday to help the company hit the goal? It was really hard. And you couldn't go, oh, I set up a meeting. I sent an email. Yeah, no. What did you do? What did you accomplish to help us get to the goal? Really hard. Just one thing. That's all you had to do every day, but one thing. And then you had to say, what do you do today to help you hit the goal? Really hard. So as we get into goal setting, guys, like think about this, but imagine you had the discipline of every day. I don't care if your team is 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, but every day you meet and go, what did we do, each of us, to help hit the goal yesterday, and what are we going to do today? It was a simple thing. I swear to God, if we hadn't done those daily meetings, there's no way we went from 0 to $1 billion. Like no one in the history of real estate's ever done it. There's very few companies in the history of the planet have ever done this. It's because of daily routine, and it was hard. It was painful, right? And I love Elon's meetings. Like if you don't show up at one of their meetings, like, oh, you had a baby, like you. Like, what's more important, humanity or your kid? Like, get your priorities straight. Like, you got to be tough on this stuff. Like, if you set a goal, it's do or die. But it takes that kind of discipline. So think about today, as we do our goal setting, Nikki's going to walk us through it. What are we willing to do for it? Now, here's the good news. When you 10X something, which is easier than 2Xing, okay, doubling your revenue, that's good. But actually 10Xing your revenue is actually easier. 10Xing your income is actually easier. But what it requires is removing a whole pile of shit. So in the example of the Montecito property company, we went from 0 to $1 billion. One thing I learned from the CEO is he only recruited people that were from out of city, out of town, out of country. Why would he do that? Why would you recruit people in your business that don't even live in your town, in your city, in your state, in your country? Why? Very smart. When you recruit somebody and they got to move with their family, they have no friends, they have no family, they got nothing. All they have is you. They got work. And you know they're serious now. And they're giving you everything. Think about why the military works. You go to military, they move you, you got nobody. You got no friends and family. Like the brotherhood that you have as your men, that's it. That's your brotherhood. So these are just ideas. I'm not saying everyone wants to build $1 billion startup, but if you do, these are really good rules. But when you do that and you're basically burning the bridges, you're getting rid of all those things. So just for a moment, does everyone know how to go on their phone and just look at your screen time? Because if you want to figure out where you get the extra 3 or 4 hours to be productive, well, I'm just showing you. What you're looking at, the screen time, that's called regrettable time. Because then you're going to see like, oh, where did those hours go? Oh, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I don't know where you spent it, but it's not good. And that time, this is how we're going to change some of that behavior. So for example, Nikki took me to an amazing seminar in West Palm Beach, a guy named Patrick Bet-David. Patrick Bet-David, for those of you who don't know, he's a really amazing guy. I would suggest you listen to his podcast. But is an Iranian immigrant? Did I get this right? Yeah. Iranian immigrant, comes to California, builds a insurance business. Was it like 2,000 offices or 200 offices, like 25,000 people? Anyway, sells it for hundreds of millions of dollars. But I remember he's in front of one of his like mansions. He told his friend about this great song. And his friend's like, that song's been like a hit song for like 10 years. You didn't know about that song? Like, how could you miss that song? He goes, for the last 15 years, I never listened to music. In my car, I would only listen to things that were going to help me. So the guy decided he was going to remove all music in his car for decades and just listen to shit that's going to help him. That's why he became worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So what I'm saying is you already have the time. And maybe some of us have to go, we don't need music in our car. We need to listen to Roman's podcast. I'm just joking. But like podcasts. But that one thing. So we can't create more than 24 hours. We're all equal. That's the only thing we're equal in life. We all have 24 hours. But what we can do is we can look at the time we spend on Netflix or on, I don't know, stupid shit and remove that to things that are going to help us. Okay. So did everyone find their screen time? And just put it just right in the back of your note, because I want us to review this a year from now and go, hey, how do we do? Because this is the most amount of hours. Because by the way, these are hours when you're awake. You're not doing screen time when you're sleeping. So these are productive hours that we can channel to something much more important. Let me ask you this. Is anyone less than 3 hours on screen time? Okay. So everyone's above. Okay. Anyone over 4 hours? Okay. If we're honest, most of us. Okay. Guys, that's a lot of hours. They say that you're really only productive about 6 hours a day. And I can tell you when it is. And again, I've spent a lot of time researching this. The only time that you're going to be super productive, it's all around the sun. See, remember I told you about the whole caveman thing? If you just want to learn about how we as humans function, we go to sleep when it's dark. When it gets dark, you wind down. 100 years ago, before electricity, we used to sleep 12 hours. There's no everyone's anxious and depressed and bullshit because they got their sleep, right? Then electricity comes on and all of a sudden things change. Then we get the most addictive device in the history of the world. Like literally, I've got one of my sons, it's like crack. Like anyone have a teenager try to take this thing away from them?
God, it's horrible.
Like the police have to be called. Like it's really, really, this is like more addictive than crack cocaine. So now these poor young brains are like staring at this thing, completely addicted. This is a real problem for all of us. We're all addicted. I've got some very successful men. They go, oh, I can't sleep at night. What are you doing? Oh, I'm on TikTok. I'm like, holy like this is real. So if you want to start changing behavior, it starts like with this. This thing is eating up 4 or 5 hours of your life every day. I know we use it for business. Yeah, okay, fine. For that 1 hour, that's fine. But the rest of the time, we can replace that. And maybe think about if you're in the car or you've got idle time, maybe let's remove the music. Trust me, you'll hear enough music in your life. And things that are actually going to help you in your business. Does that make sense? Simple. Who's watched Game of Thrones here? Who's watched Game of Thrones? Okay, half the room. That's 600 hours. 600 hours. Like when a friend goes, oh, have you seen Yellowstone? That's a great show, but like, do I have 50 hours? Like, guys, like we binge watch a lot of shit, right? And I don't think 600 hours of Game of Thrones necessarily propelled our future, right? Maybe it did. I doubt it, but maybe it did. What I'm saying is we have the time, but how are we allocating our time? So it's more of like, okay, so look, if your screen time is still 4 hours, but it's all podcasts and shit that's helping you, Dan, right? But most of us aren't doing that. Okay. So, but I do think we can only improve what we measure. We're pretty good at our weight. I bet you all of you, I can ask your weight and we put it at a scale. I think you're all within a couple pounds. Like you're going to know that. Okay. But most of us aren't watching our screen time. I think it's a big one. Okay. So what I learned here is once we crack one of those daily habits, like again, going to bed early, like this is important. When it gets dark, this is your sign to start like winding down. And the moment that sun is up, none of us should be in bed ever. Who disagrees with that? When the sun is up, we should be awake. Does anyone disagree with that? Guys, this is like basic stuff, right? But it's super important. And then they say you only have about 6 hours of real productive time. So if the sun's going up right now at 7 in the morning, I've only got 6 hours to be hyper productive. So some of us are like, oh, but I'm at work like 12 hours a day. Well, maybe that's not the smartest thing. Maybe if we were just, when the sun is up and those 6 hours and I'm like hyper productive then, that might be a way better use of your time than being in the office 12 hours a day, right? It's working smart, working hard. And the sleep is the big issue because most of us, and you know, doctor, you'll help us with this, but I know that even if I miss like an hour or so of sleep, the next day, I'm like, it's like clinically being drunk. Like my brain is not fully functioning and I'm miserable. I'm grumpy. I'm irritable, right? If we're not getting our sleep, we're grumpy, we're irritable. It's like being drunk. So these are all the daily habits. Has anyone read a book called Atomic Habits? Atomic Habits? This is like, if I only picked one book for everyone to study, this is the book because it's the book. And I've been doing personal development for 30 years. I've easily spent $1 million on this stuff. Like I'm obsessed with trying to get better. But if I just picked one book, that's the book because that's the book that will teach you that it's all about your daily habits. If you win the morning, you win the day. So, and then you think about that. So I won the morning, I won the day, I win the week. And that's how you win the month, the year. It's not about the big, it's about the day. And that's that Montecito example of the morning meeting. That's winning the day every day. Consistency, right? So Nikki, how many days are you missing workouts during a week? Like not zero, right? It's consistent. And this is the same in our business. Same with any part, but it's winning the daily habits. So the reason I wanted to create this group is I did the 75-day challenge and everyone's like, holy this worked. And it was free for my friends. And then I went to Mark and I said, what if we could take a group of men, successful men, not guys with complacency virus, not guys that are not willing to invest themselves. There's a lot of guys that talk a story, but are not willing to put a dollar into themselves. You know, they'll invest in some whatever, but they won't invest in themselves because it's about investing in yourself. When you invest in yourself, you get 100x returns. Every investment I made in myself has been 100x. Your income can only go as high as your personal development. If you're not investing in your personal development, your business is capped. When I meet a lot of people like, oh yeah, how's your revenue? Oh, my business has been kind of stuck for a couple of years. It's you. You're stuck. Your income can only go as high as your personal development. Your business, I don't care if you have 100 employees, they will only go as high as the leader. If you don't invest in your personal development, you cannot get your income higher. Your business cannot grow. Does this make sense? And it's never been easier. Like, my God, like every book is basically free. Can I just tell you what I did the last time? This is crazy. So I'm at the airport. This is about 2 weeks ago. And there's a book I really want to read. So of course, because I don't want to pay $38 at the thing, because I'll buy things on Amazon, it'll be half price. I take a picture of the book. So then I'm thinking, hold on, I want to try some. I want to give it to ChatGPT. So I just send the photo to ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT has cataloged every search I've ever done. Everything I've asked it for the last 2 years, it's there. So I take the picture. So ChatGPT read the whole book for me like in a second, right? But that wasn't good enough. I said, ChatGPT, what can I learn from this book? How can it help me grow 10X Mastermind? I want to have 100 members this year. I asked it a question. It literally now went into, okay, here's some changes on an email. Here's some changes on a website. Guys, in a second, ChatGPT not just read the book for me, it knows everything that's in my mind. And it literally said, these are the landing pages you need. This is the copy. Like, it literally redid all of my marketing stuff based on this book. I'm like, holy I used to have 20 people just do our marketing stuff, 20 people full time. If I gave them the same task, guys, we'd be here a week later and we still wouldn't do what ChatGPT did. So I love reading. Reading is my favorite thing. But imagine when you can just take a photo of a book, send it to ChatGPT and say, how can it help me? And then tell it what you want to do. Help my business, holy it's mind blowing. Okay. But 99% of people will never do this and they'll never figure this out. So we have such a competitive advantage right now. Just using AI. Does this make sense? Again, taking a photo of the book, again, because the ChatGPT knows everything you've ever done and give it a specific task. How can this book help me with this? How can it help my son, my daughter, whatever it is? Wild. Okay. And wrapping up, this is about getting out of your comfort zone. So the reason I created this was I wanted high value men, guys like Chris, but it's about getting out of our comfort zone, removing a lot of stupid shit. Because we all do a lot of stupid shit. So removing stupid shit and focusing on what's important. It's the daily habits. It's going to bed early, maybe removing alcohol. I know for some of you, this will be our big challenge. But look, we have a new billionaire that joined our group in Miami. And he's a great guy. And you spent some time with him. And so we're in this 3-story penthouse overlooking Manhattan. I'd never been in a 3-story penthouse before. Like, it was insane. Like this wraparound staircase. He had secret rooms. He had steam rooms. We go to the top floor overlooking all of Miami, and he's got this crazy pool. And he says, you know, the thing about your 10X, he goes, you're asking people to do some things they don't want to do. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know, like, for example, like I'm picking on him, like he smokes and he's vaping. I'm like, you know, Roman, you know, you can't go to successful men and ask them to give up their addictions. I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And he goes, maybe just start off with 10,000 steps a day. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine, right? Start with 10. But my job, right, as a human to get the best of somebody is I got to challenge people, right? Like, that's my job. If I don't bug Andy about alcohol in his 4,000 wine collection, right? Like, that's my job, right? Because I want him to succeed. Because I want to raise my grandkids. I want him to raise his grandkids. Well, that's not going to happen, right? I bug my friends because I want to have lots of like really cool, successful, rich friends I can travel around the world because it's not fun by myself. I did 1 million miles in 3 years in COVID, mainly by myself. It wasn't so much fun. I would much rather do with my friends. So I want my friends to be healthy and successful and rich. It's better. Okay.